So we've been talking about what's coming, and it's not good. It's not good. I will tell you that a collapse is coming that will change everything. They know once America and the Western world see what's going on, it's not going to, I mean, you think what's happening. Look what's happening with COVID.
This year, thanks to the pandemic, we've already seen America's and the world's food supplies go into complete chaos. We've seen so many different things happen to the food supply that you never would have thought possible. Not only did the Western world supermarkets become absolutely ransacked and certain basic necessities were all good on every single shelf, we saw the entire world go through many different food supply chain issues too. All around the world, supply chains were broken. You couldn't get certain things in certain countries, and this was something that nobody had prepared for, such as China's food shortage, where pork prices skyrocketed, or America's sanitary crisis, where people en masse bought toilet paper, kitchen rolls, and any sanitary items you could get your hands on. Supermarkets were empty.
The truckers up in Canada, people standing up. When people really understand, things are going to change. So it's a race. Do we wake up before they put us in a cage, a digital cage? That's really what's happening. So I don't know when, but they need us in a digital cage. And the best way to do it, and the last way to do it, is a total meltdown of the financial system of the West.
Let's assume, for example, that a country that used to be democratic, where people were not paying too much attention about safeguarding their privacy, becomes undemocratic and someone wants to control citizens more closely. They will try to infer from what you buy your political leanings, potentially. And generally speaking, just monitor what you're doing in ways that they shouldn't be doing.
Chrystia Freeland yesterday not saying how many accounts have been frozen, not saying whose accounts have been frozen, but certainly the threat is there looming for people who have been involved with all of this. We also know that some of these crowdfunding sites, such as GoFundMe, are going to have to register with FinTrack, which is the government's financial intelligence unit. We're going to play a little bit more now. This is what we've heard from Chrystia Freeland about these measures.
If your truck is being used in these protests, your corporate accounts will be frozen. The insurance on your vehicle will be suspended. The consequences are real, and they will bite.
Concentrate on what you have and what you need to do. I would buy canned foods. Canned foods. Every time you go to Costco, buy more than you need and don't touch it. Leave it. Canned food will be not only a blessing for your family and others, but it is also something that will have great value. If things really go to hell in a handbasket, you ain't seen nothing yet with the supply chain. The next thing you need to do is get your money out of these big banks and tell them why you're doing it. I refuse to do business with any financial institution that is using ESG.
They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now, the Chinese are also ranked, given a mark out of a possible 950 points. A score in the 700s is considered good. Around the 500 mark is not. For now, the number is a sort of bank credit rating, keeping track of everyone's spending habits.
I think being ranked is a good thing. A society has to have rules.
It forces us to be well-behaved.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it, and anyway, we don't have a choice.
But in an effort to keep all of its subjects in line, Beijing is taking the system a step further in 2020. It's aggregating data gathered by banks, private companies, and the state to rate if someone's a good or bad citizen.
By using the most data possible, the so-called big data, the system will play an important role in rebuilding a moral society.
So tell me about what they got from Merrill Lynch.
Right.
Explain
So
it.
a coworker of mine logs into his Merrill Lynch account. Not a rich guy, just a regular guy. Got his 401k in Merrill Lynch, logs into his Merrill Lynch account, and up pops this really friendly, amazing notice that you've got your very own ESG score, your environment, social, and governance score. Scores in all three categories and an overall score. And unfortunately, my degenerate friend, 4.7 overall score out of 10. So not doing very well on the ESG scale.
This is akin to you getting a score. You think you have a score of maybe 700, for your credit score, and all of a sudden you find out that you have a score of 300. What are you going to be able to buy? How are you going to get a loan? You're going to be able to buy a car, a house, or anything else. This credit score is going through the financial sector and the banks, and you'll understand why this is so bad here in a second. So when you get this, it is based on things from Merrill Lynch on the companies that you are buying. So if you want to buy stock and you think guns are going to be great and they're going to go up, they have a very low, what's called ESG score, environmental, social justice, and governance score. And so they have a very low rating, which means the banks are very unlikely to give them any money. So you can say, I really believe in this technology, but if it's not politically correct, it will have a low score. That will punish that company in financing. But you say, screw it, I believe in this company. You now get a low ESG score. And they say this is just to help you invest. But that's not what it is. That's the happy face. The other side of that is it's your score. So the bank now looks at you and says, well, you have an ESG score of 4. You're not playing along with the environment. You're not for social justice. How can I trust that you're going to do something that is worthwhile for this collective community? So now you don't get loans. Now, the overall score, you're going to be graded, and your risk to the bank is assessed based on things and services you buy. This is from their report. The things and services you buy.
The state will go over every detail of a person's life with a fine-tooth comb. Their financial situation, spending habits, career, even behavior on social media. Criticizing the government online or displaying outward signs of wealth is a no-no. On the other hand, praising the party or giving blood increases your social credit. Xiaowen Wang is a model citizen. She lives in Nanjing, a testing ground for social ranking. Married with a child, she has a job in a retirement home, no debts, and she wouldn't dream of jaywalking.
As a good citizen, I respect the rules of the road. If I didn't, I'd lose points on my social credit.
In theory, everything can be taken into account in the social score, even the most innocuous errands like supermarket shopping. When Xiaowen Wang makes an electronic payment, her purchases tell the state a lot about her. Buying cigarettes would count against her. On the other hand, nappies show she's an attentive mother. Beer could indicate alcoholism. She'd be better off buying water. In this pilot city of 8 million people, there are only 18,000 model citizens. For Xiaowen Wang, there are perks to be had, such as paying half price for the bus.
I get discounts for all public services, even at museums. And the library is free for me, thanks to my score.
A good score brings benefits, but people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
It's a matter of principle. Those people have to be condemned.
Those people aren't honest, so they have to pay the price.
It's only right to pay your debts. You have to blacklist those that don't.
The Supreme Court has created a blacklist for so-called bad citizens, those whose ratings have dropped to zero. On it are companies, but also 23 million people to date. Among them is this journalist Liu Hu. He got a little too close to uncovering corruption among high-profile party members. After being sued for defamation by the subject of a story he'd written, he was blacklisted. But he only realized when he tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from traveling.
That tells me I'm still on the blacklist.
Punished because he's been branded untrustworthy by the state.
Once you're blacklisted, you can no longer get a bank loan, start a business, buy an apartment, or even send your children to a private school.
Liu Hu is among a tiny minority of people who have dared to criticize the system, which some are calling a digital dictatorship.
I worry, because I think many people like me will be deprived of individual freedoms, and all of us will live with restrictions of one kind or another.
After our meeting, Liu Hu learned that his name had been removed from the blacklist, but he still has a long way to go if he doesn't want to languish at the bottom of the social credit hierarchy.
When you stop using ESG as a marker, then fine. But until then, put it in a credit union, a local credit union. Keep everything local. Every red state should have, I think every state should have this, but every red state needs to have an anti-ESG bill that is tied directly to the finance markets. If the financial sector, they're the enforcer of this. If the financial sector starts enforcing ESG when it comes to making loans, et cetera, it will change everything. The energy community knows this. That's why they've already stepped to the plate, and they're already changing the law in West Virginia because of coal, in Texas because of oil, Oklahoma because of oil. But that's only the E. The social justice and governance are just as bad. Call your state and call your legislators and make sure that they are going to pass an anti-ESG bill with the S and the G, not just protecting the oil companies. Protect me too. Tell them that. I am not an oil company, but I'm going to get hit with social justice. Also, call your congressman. The Build Back Better bill, they are working so hard to get that passed. They have to have those final pieces. Nothing in that bill can pass. Nothing. And it's not about the price tag. It's about the pieces of the machine for the Great Reset. Let me James Lindsay explain why this is happening. And it is truly terrifying that, progressives have always believed in this utopia, that they can have the experts run everything. And when they say that, and you're like, oh, well, maybe that's good. Have you seen what the experts have done just with COVID? And you're not going to be able to speak out against it. They will silence you. So there's no going back once this starts. And it's close to starting. Why would these companies and everybody do this? Listen to what James Lindsay says in this upcoming podcast on Thursday. Listen to this. Do they actually believe or do they know they're only positioning themselves for power?
I look at people like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum, and I think that they're probably true believers in very significant ways, especially Klaus. I think they believe that what's hindered, if you read the Marxism through the 60s, you get this sense that what hindered the Soviet Union was that it lacked the technology necessary to meet the production levels necessary to have a thriving society. Capitalist society found production, but they have all this exploitation. And that was the big question that they were wrestling with. And so now with the advent of AI and with, all of these new machines and robots and self-driving vehicles they want to unleash, I think they actually think we can pull it off now. That, the AI can predict distribution to get around the information problem that von Mises pointed out and said this is why communism and socialism don't work. Planned economies don't work because there's information being exchanged between the people engaging in a market. And without that information, you don't know what goods and services are needed. So you have huge excesses of, say, steel or huge deficiencies of, say, bread, and it doesn't get worked out. But with super advanced AI, well, they can predict what you want and give you an advertisement for it before you even know you wanted it. So I think that there are people, these kind of highly technologist types, who genuinely believe that they're going to pull it off this time, that we now have the necessary technology to make it work, not understanding that human beings are still human beings at the bottom unless the full Marxist program is brought to bear, which is to remake humans to need different things.
Well, they are doing that.
That's the goal.
They are doing that. Transhumanism is the end of that, but it's frightening. This is what Stephen Hawking was warning about. This is what many people are warning about, transhumanism, where you become one with the technology. And in the Great Reset's own words, at the World Economic Forum, in their own words, they will know what you do, where you go, what you do, what you say, what you think, and even what you dream. That's transhumanism. Real quick update. Elon Musk just hit a milestone for his brain implants. And he is developing a brain implant that will be able to connect you to the internet.